For the past 4 years, the Young Scholars Program has been seeking the science of after-school education. Johnston Elementary Young Scholars has created a footpath for other after-school programs to succeed. 75% of the children who are in the program for 3 months increase between 1 and 3 levels on their end-of-grade test scores.
I don't ever think of Young Scholars as a separate program. I always think of it as part of my program, part of my classroom.
These are the students that I'd be most worried about understanding, and they're passing in their homework, they're getting it done, they're participating in class, they have confidence to do that because they know they've got the background information.
John Paul is a prime example. He was done with his homework by Tuesday night. For the week's worth of homework, he was done with it by Tuesday night. So all he had to do was read every day, and that was it. He'd read, he was done, he could play, he could watch TV, he could do a lot of the things that he really, really enjoys. You know, and I see that with a lot of these kids.
These are the kids who always have their homework done. So I really don't have to worry about them during the day. They do above and beyond what some of my other kids are doing because they have that extra help and the extra time in the afternoon.
They feel good about themselves. That's the biggest difference. They feel like they can do it.
The Young Scholars Director and the teachers and Young Scholars checking in every day with their kids to find out whether they had a good day as far as their behavior, whether they completed their homework, ways that they could help them through the extended day. I just think that those kids that come to Young Scholars, they develop a sense of community, and they work out their problems together, and they work together doing homework as well as working to do projects around the school, to do projects even in the community.
All our projects are integrated into the standard course of study. The reason we do that is so that we, again, get the maximum benefit for our time. The children are doing something that they enjoy, that they're creating a positive association with school.
In the projects, when we do measuring, they have done measuring in Young Scholars, so they know what an inch is, they know what a yard is, and they can estimate better because they've worked with that.
And then you look at some of the things like the field trips that you take. That definitely comes in too. Today we did a science experiment about land erosion. Some of my young scholars were like, well, I've seen this happen when we're out doing hiking trails or when, and it's things that they don't necessarily see in their backyard because their backyard's pavement.
It's landscaped very beautifully, and that was what I was told, that the Young Scholars Program does that. And I have just seen that in my little bit of time here, that they've weeded the flowers and they've planted new flowers and they've done a water garden and all kinds of other things that just add to the beauty of our school, and they add to just the sense of community. You're not going to come over here and destroy something like flowers or a pond that you helped build and make. So I think that all these activities that Young Scholars do, but especially the gardens and the beautification of the school, it makes kids take ownership in their school building.
The projects that they've done, the flagpole and the tiles on the water fountains and things, it just makes our school so pretty and so beautiful. And the kids have ownership in the school. And I think if you have ownership in something, then, you definitely are going to work harder to make, that a part of your life.
When we're just in the hall and they see something that they did or they made and it's making our school a better place to be, the garden, the murals, and they're just so proud of where they learn.
When we first started out at Johnston, there was a high rate of vandalism. When we started doing Young Scholars projects and changing the view of the school, and the children doing that work, they started protecting the school. When the vandals grew up and got their license and no longer came to the school to destroy it, we weren't replacing them with new vandals.
Really starting to set a tone of respect for the school environment, for the children that are growing up here, and I really firmly believe that a lot of that is from Young Scholars. We talked the other day in a meeting about how one of the parents that lives right next door, he scurries people off the school grounds when he sees them because he's a Young Scholars parent and he knows that the kids really value the space.
We combine psychology with the curriculum. By coupling those two things, we get children who are emotionally sound as well as children who are working on academics. And our character education is the way that we prevent at-risk children from failing socially in life as well as in school.
The character building that we do with the young scholars, they're taking it back, and you can see that it is sticking. They actually use it day to day.
They create a goal that they will achieve, and the goal has to be written in a journal. It has to be proper in writing structure. They will write specifically what their goals were and how they achieved them in their classroom. They start out each month choosing which feather that they want to work on. And each feather means something different. Blue is peacefulness, yellow is scholarly, orange is participation. These basic character traits. And they're tangible through feathers when the children see colors. When they see pink, they think of love. When they see red, they think of helpfulness. So they're constantly reminded of these character traits just by opening their eyes.
The feather reward system, I can carry that into the classroom, and I can brag about the students when they've earned their feather, and they can tell me why they've earned that feather, and it affects the whole group.
We had a campfire for feather ceremony, and it was the most impressive feather ceremony I've ever seen these children involved in.
And the thing that struck me the most was their insight into themselves and their ability to talk about it and express it.
And they were expressing themselves in ways that I had never heard these children express themselves. They were expansive. They were specific about how they felt, about their goals that they had set, about what they had done to achieve those goals.
The peers talk to each other and say, you know, when you first came, you really struggled with this, but now I can see your growth. That means so much. I mean, you know, as an adult, you can say it to them a million times, but until they hear it from each other and until they can share that with each other, it really doesn't mean as much, I don't think. And so, you know, I pretty much just sat back and enjoyed and felt the joy of those moments. And, you know, I wasn't even necessarily there for watching those children grow, but you could see that they were proud of themselves, they were proud of each other. And it's also, you know, it's amazing to see that that's a cool thing to do. Sometimes it's not so cool to share how those sort of touchy-feely moments, and they did, and they were excited about it, and they really owned it, and I think that was just amazing.
One of the things we did was an archaeology project. They dug in an area of land that's now a tobacco farm, but it previously had been in an area that was inhabited by Native Americans, and they found arrowheads and pottery shards. One was about 400 years old. We had a young man with us from Warren Wilson who was our guide.
We couple project-based learning with expeditionary learning. We take the children out into the community and out into their region. They can get out of their normal social roles. They can see new connections with other children of other cultures.
I think initially my first interaction with young scholars was last year on a camping trip.
George Kilmer was fun. We saw lots and lots of woods, and we saw camping, our teachers there, and our friends. We went to this hike up the woods. The trees in George Kilmer were not the same as our trees in this neighborhood. It was a long hike. Everyone almost got tired, but it was a good trip.
The next trip that I went with them was the Perry's Water Garden, and it's a farm out in Franklin where the people raise water lilies and exotic plants.
The young scholars went on a field trip to Perry's Water Garden. We saw lily pads, large flowers, and big ponds. The water painting was fun. We got some paints and water, and we sketched the pond and the trees and the mountains. The most I liked was the fishes and the ponds. The fish were different colors, and ones were called koi fish. They were really big, and they cost almost $100.
But what they did when they were there was pretty amazing. They had built themselves easels, and they took the easels that they had built and did watercolor paintings of the flowers. Dawn had introduced them to a French artist, Monet, and they had looked at some of his paintings, and they went out then at that time, at Saturday, and made their own Monet water garden paintings.
This is exposing them to new things, the nature hike that they went on, and then just a chance to go dig in the water to find some pretty rocks. None of these kids get that chance, and that's the beauty of it. They're actually listening, they're actually feeling, they're enjoying, they feel the cold water, they feel the roughness of the rocks. They're going, hey, this is pretty cool. And they're really enjoying being young scholars. That's the biggest thing.
They benefit especially from nature because many of them don't know how to preserve life. When you don't live around a lot of nature, there's not a lot of different kinds of life. So when you go out into nature and you can see all the delicacies of the forest, you really appreciate it. When we went to the Lunsford Festival, the children got to experience Appalachian folk history. They got to see clogging, they got to see the richness of the Appalachian culture. They got to see how pioneers lived, how to make butter, how to milk a cow. When they see where milk comes from, that means that they see the cycle of life. With today's families having to work so much and just struggling to survive, they don't get to take the children out to see why we're living and why it's important to work for the good of society.
One thing that I have noticed is some of the families will just kind of come on these field trips and then sit back and watch. And then 45 minutes to an hour, 2 hours later, they're tired of watching. They're in there participating. And then their kids are eating it up, and they're getting some really good quality time.
It allows another person in another maybe less structured area than a classroom to give the teacher and the parent some perspective on that child and how best to deal with that child.
Because there is the built-in parent component in the Young Scholars Program, if there's something that I need to communicate, or if I'm feeling frustrated because I'm not getting things back, I go to Dawn. She has to talk to parents. I get the things back, or I can communicate things that I need to.
I think being a fourth grade teacher, having those third graders come from Young Scholars, they are more prepared for fourth grade.
I like Young Scholars because it helps me with my work, and it also helps me make new friends and get my homework done.
They're working really, really hard and then playing really, really hard. And that's the way it is. And they're walking with a spring in their step and a new confidence.
I really think the most important thing about Young Scholars is to teach children to be at peace with themselves, with their education, with their environment. When we leave even one child behind, that person destroys society. We are creating an opportunity for them that they would never ever have, and they appreciate that.